Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Stony Brook on this beautiful Sunday morning, the first Sunday in spring. My name is Carol Castillo, and I'm very happy to be serving as your worship associate today. I would like to offer a special welcome to any of you who are visiting us or are here for the first time today, and particularly any guests who chose to join us this morning based on the Abraham's Table initiative. We are so very happy to have you here with us, and we look forward to getting to know you. Please stay following the service and join us for coffee hour, or if you're online, in small group chats. In either place, you'll find lots of friendly people who can answer any questions that you may have about us. I have a few brief but important announcements for you today. Thinking of becoming a member of UUFSB? Are you a newcomer wanting to learn more about Unitarian Universalism? Come to the new member class today with Pastor Madelyn at noon in the Yellow Room. The fellowship needs a volunteer to help conduct a building-wide fire drill on a Sunday in May immediately following the worship service. We have an evacuation plan, but we need someone to ring the alarm and then to give the all-clear signal so that people can re-enter the building. If you would like to volunteer, please contact Susan in the office and she will provide you with the details. Thank you for considering. And if you've been considering leading one of our lay-led services this summer, the worship team would like your proposal by the end of this week. Please see the printed announcements or the latest email newsfeed for more details, or feel free to speak with one of the worship associates or Pastor Madelyn for more information. And finally, please remember to silence your phones or other electronic devices. Thank you.
This is a song by the late Pete Seeger. Old devil time, I'm gonna fool you now. Devil time, you'd like to bring me down. But when I'm feeling low, my lovers gather round and help me rise to fight you one more time. One more time. One more time. And help me rise to fight you one more time. Old devil pain, you often pinned me down. You thought I'd cry and beg you for the end, but at that very time my lovers gathered round rise to fight you one more time. One more time. One more time. And helped me rise to fight you one more time. Old devil fear, you with your icy hand. Devil fear, you'd like to freeze me cold. But when I'm sore afraid, my lovers gather round and help me rise to fight you one more time. One more time. One more time. Help me rise to fight you one more time. devil hate. I knew you long ago. Then I found out the poison in your breath. Now when we hear your voice, my lovers gather round and help me rise to fight you one more time. One more time. One more time. And help me rise to fight you one more time. Storm or fire can ever beat us down. No wind that blows but carries us further on. And you who fear, oh lovers, gather round, and we will rise to sing it one more time. One more time, one more time, and we will rise to sing it one more time.
Come, come, you here in this sanctuary. Come, you in the great South Bay, you who are joining us from other congregations or in your homes. Come, enter into this space made holy by our presence. Enter into this hour made holy by our intention. Come, come singly and in groups. Come together here. Enter in. Let us worship together.
I have asked the Lutterby family to light our chalice this morning, and they have returned the traveling chalice. If anybody wants to sign up to take that today with them, there might be a sign-up sheet in the lobby, or you can speak to the DRE or Pastor Madelyn. The flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. We kindle the flame of our faith in the cup of our covenant. This is drawn together by the Reverend Jennifer Grayson as found on the worship web. We come together every week, bound not by a creed or a mutual desire to please one God or many gods, yet we are drawn together by a belief that how we are in the world, who we are together, matters. We light this chalice together in the knowledge that love, not fear, can change the world. I invite you now to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing our first hymn, number 354 in your gray hymnal, We Laugh, We Cry. We will sing verses 1 and 4. It is a beautiful song, I agree. This morning, I invite you to respond to our affirmation of purpose. Please respond with, "We join together." It's in your order of service. We join together here as purposeful companions to support and challenge one another in our efforts. We join together to deepen our spiritual practice and understanding. We join together to celebrate human difference in our outreach and welcome. We join together to listen, speak, and act with humility and compassion. To respond boldly to injustice among us and beyond us. And to tend and protect this parcel of earth and all the life it nourishes. In so doing, we strive to create the world our principles envision and to channel the wisdom of our sources faithfully to that end. We join together.
Good morning, beloveds. It is so beautiful to see so many faces, both those I recognize and those who are visiting us, both young and old. Welcome to our sanctuary. My name is Deborah Little. I'm the Director of Religious Education here. Now, I always diligently look at the description of the service when I am choosing a tale for all ages or time. So when I looked up the word spiritual, I found several definitions, but the one that most drew me in was seeking the sacred. In contrast, the word religious was most often associated with an institution, like a church, mosque, synagogue, temple. Pastor Madelyn is going to untie this thorny knot for you in a few minutes, but I want to share with you a true story that has always seemed to me to represent a spiritual quest for the sacred. This is not exactly the way it was reported by newspapers, but it's closer to the way this story was adapted for a children's book that I read to my oldest child's third grade class a long time ago. The book is called A Symphony of Whales. So imagine, close your eyes a minute. Imagine that you are in the frigid Arctic. All around you, there is snow and ice. The water is freezing. You're in a strait in the northeasternmost part of Russia, but you're only 130 miles across the water from Alaska. It's late December in 1984. The Inuit people are hunting for food to carry them through the winter, and so are the whales. Many, many pods of beluga whales have chased a large shoal of cod into a strait between a Russian island and the Chukchi Peninsula in Russia. Now, there were between 2,000 and 3,000 whales in this group. We can imagine that they were feeding and frolicking, since this type of whale, like many, is quite playful. They were talking to each other all the time with high clicks and whistles. But the wind suddenly changed, and the ice grew thick very rapidly, up to 12 feet thick. And belugas, like all whales, need to rise to the surface to breathe about every 25 minutes. And while they are not the largest whale by a long shot, they do grow to an average length of 10 to 17 feet and an average weight of 2,000 to 3,500 pounds. So still pretty big. They can break through thin ice, but this ice was too thick. As it thickened and closed around them, they found themselves in very small pools of water, struggling for air. Now, a hunter from Chukchi Peninsula came upon the whales, and at first he was overjoyed because this would be a bountiful catch to carry his community through the long winter. But when other hunters and fishermen arrived, they began to see the problem. The ice was too thick for the whales to breach, and the ice patch was too big for a whale to travel in one breath. The whales would die if they were not rescued from this ice to return to the ocean. Now, as it happens in our contemporary era, the plight of the belugas was soon reported by regional newspapers, and the Russian government sent experts in to assess the situation. Meanwhile, indigenous people from a local village went to the water and started to bring frozen fish to the whales to help them survive. They kept also digging at the ice to make room for the belugas to take turns coming up to breathe. But the ice kept returning faster and faster, faster than the people could respond. So a call went out for, this happens to me every time, for one of the most powerful icebreakers in the country. This icebreaker was called the Moskva, which means Moscow. Icebreakers clear paths by pushing straight into frozen over water or pack ice. And the ice usually breaks without a noticeable change in the vehicle's trim. In other words, it doesn't wreck the boat. When the ice is very thick, the ship can drive its bow onto the ice and break it under the ship's weight. So the Moskva, which wasn't right there, raced to the area to try to break through the ice and free the whales. But when they arrived, the captain assessed the situation and said, "This is impossible. The ice is too thick." Dozens of whales started to die, and people pleaded with the captain. So he loaded on a fresh, full tank of fuel, and the Moskva plunged into the ice. It took 2 days to reach the whales. At the same time, helicopters were dropping fresh fish into the small pools to feed the belugas. By this time in February, 7 weeks in, the whales were weak and hungry. As the ice pools got larger from the Moskva, they rested and fed, and they started to play. They did everything but swim out to sea. They were afraid of the giant 400-foot icebreaker. The noise from the thundering propellers was terrifying. Over and over again, the Moskva broke the ice and then backed away, trying to lure the whales to follow it. And over again, the whales were too afraid and did not follow the ship out to sea. But then a miracle happened. A sailor remembered that whales are very sensitive to music. And so the crew began to broadcast music loudly from the top deck. They tried pop music. Whales didn't like that so much. Then they tried martial music, and the whales did not like that so much either. But then they tried classical music. I like to imagine, was it Rachmaninoff, Prokofiev, Tchaikovsky? The choices. And it was this classical music that appealed to the whales. And so this enormous, it's called a herd when it's this many pods of whales, they started to slowly follow the ship out to sea. And the ship kept breaking through the ice and backing up, and the whales followed. And in time, the belugas began to come right up to the ship. One observer reported, "They hemmed it about from all sides. They were happy as children, jumping and spreading out all over the ice field." Finally, in late February 1985, the Moskva led the belugas into the open sea. More than 2,000 whales were saved. This sympathy, this communication, this work to rescue and save another species using a common spiritual experience, the experience of music. That is what I think sacred is. Amen. And now I invite our RE leaders for today to stand, and then any children who want to go back to our RE class are invited to join them. As they leave, would we sing them out singing a reed benediction, which is in the end of your hymnals.
Our reading for the meditation will be followed by a minute of silence, and then we will sing hymn number 389 in your gray hymnal, Gathered Here. We'll sing it 2 times through. Our meditation this morning is All That We Have Been, All That We Will Become, by Reverend Leslie Ahuva Fales. She's the pastor of the UU Fellowship of Fairbanks, Alaska. She notes that the sentence, "Blessed are you, Spirit of life, who has sustained us, enlivened us, and enabled us to reach this moment," is an adaptation of the Hebrew prayer, Shehehiyanu. She tells us that it is a blessing for any time you do something you haven't done in a long time, or you're doing something for the first time, or when doing annual events, that you should feel blessed for having lived to see come around the wheel of the year again, or for when you survive a close call, or when you're about to do something adventurous. All that we have been separately and all that we will become together is stretched out before and behind us, like stars scattered across a canvas of sky. We stand at the precipice, arms locked together like tandem skydivers working up the courage to jump. Tell me, friends, what have we got to lose? Our fear of failure? Our mistrust of our own talents? What have we got to lose? A poverty of the spirit? The lie that we are alone? What wonders await us in the space between the first leap and the moment our feet, our wheels, however we move our bodies across this precious earth, touch down softly on unknown soil? What have we got to lose that we can't replace with some previously unimaginable joy? Blessed are you, Spirit of life, who has sustained us, enlivened us, and enabled us to reach this moment. Give us courage in our leaping and gratitude in our landing, and share with us in the joy of a long and fruitful ministry together. Our first reading this morning is taken from the Taoist text, Tract of the Quiet Way. By discoursing on morality and righteousness, convert both the cunning and the dull. By preaching on the canonical books and histories, enlighten the ignorant and the benighted. Publish and make known sutras and tracts. Build and repair temples and shrines. Expound moral maxims to correct the people's faults. Our second reading this morning is from the Baha'i text, Gleanings from the Writings of Baha'u'llah, 110. Our hope is that the world's religious leaders and the rulers thereof will unitedly arise for the reformation of this age and the rehabilitation of its fortunes. Let them, after meditation on its needs, take counsel together, and through anxious and full deliberation, administer to a diseased and sorely afflicted world the remedy it requires.
It's a beautiful morning out there, isn't it? Some of us find beauty in all kinds of weather. I like a good thunderstorm or freshly fallen snow, or when the snow is falling, as long as I don't have to shovel it. But I think most of us would agree it's a beautiful morning. Now, I have a Sunday morning ritual. Perhaps you have rituals, your own rituals. On Sunday mornings, before I come here to get ready for worship, I go to my favorite bagel place where they have the tofu spread. That's important for me. I don't know if any of you are lactose intolerant, but when we find a place that has the dairy alternatives, we get very excited. So I go to my favorite bagel place, and sometimes I get a scooped pumpernickel bagel, but a lot of times I get a bialy with my tofu spread and a cup of coffee, and I sit down and I eat that, and then I come here. And this morning at the bagel place, it was really busy. I got there a little later than I sometimes do, and it was really busy. And I noticed that there were people dressed for sports or lazing around on a Sunday morning. And there was at least one person who was probably dressed from the night before. No judgments. So if so many people are going to sports and staying home on Sunday mornings to eat bagels and read the New York Times, why are we here? Why do we come together on a Sunday morning to worship together, and why do we do things as a congregation, as a religious body, the rest of the week? Well, perhaps you've heard this story before. This took place a long time ago in New England, not on a morning like this, but on one of those cold early spring evenings, you know, when it's raining and it's cold rain and you just feel it in your bones. And on this evening, the pastor of the local church went to visit a parishioner whom he hadn't seen in church in a long, long time. Now, this was old New England, and these were people of few words. And so the parishioner let the pastor in, and they nodded at each other. And they sat down by the fire. The parishioner offered the minister a cup, so they sat by the fire, drinking their tea and gazing at the fire. And after a little while, the pastor took the fireplace tongs and lifted up one of the coals in the fire and set it to the side. And as they sat there and watched, that one coal began to lose its flame. The main fire was still going strong, but that one coal was just dimming and dimming and dimming until it was just an ember with that orange light inside. And then the pastor took the tongs and put that coal back in the main fire, and of course, it lit up again immediately. And then he put his cup down and nodded to his parishioner and left. And the following Sunday, there was the parishioner in the pews. Why do we come together? Why do we worship as a body? Corporate worship. When I was in seminary, we had to take a class called corporate worship, and people outside of seminary would scratch their heads and say, "You're taking a class in business worship?" No. Corporate like the body. Worship of the entire body of the congregation. Now, we can and often do have individual spiritual practices, and these are good. It's not either or. Do you have anybody here have a spiritual practice, a personal spiritual practice? Good. We'll talk about those some more some other time perhaps, and then more hands will go up. You know that's kind of my job, to encourage spiritual growth here. But when we only pay attention to individual things, the only voice we hear starts to be our own, and we can live, goes in tight, we can live in an echo chamber. Now, if you want to know the results of echo chambers, all we need to do is look at our increasingly divided society. Remember when watching the news in the evening meant everybody watched Walter Cronkite, right? Or, Huntley and Brinkley. But now we can choose our individual news station and get just the stuff that we agree with. Just the stuff, whether it's true or not. We can have our own beliefs continually reaffirmed without any challenge, without any questioning. So one of the reasons that we come together is to get out of that echo chamber. Now we have to be careful because we can create an echo chamber within our own congregations, can we not? If we aren't truly welcoming of folks, and we push out the folks who deviate even a little bit, then we do the same thing together, only with more of us. So we do have to be careful about that. But one of the reasons that we come together is to learn from each other and to do the work of faith, to do faithful work. Why do we do faithful work? Because, friends, salvation, however we define it, I have not preached on that yet, so this might be a challenge, but salvation is not individual. Salvation is not individual. Salvation means all of us together. Now, you might be sitting there or watching at home or at the Great South Bay congregation and saying, salvation, I don't need to be saved. Right, I know, you don't. I'm not talking about heaven or an afterlife. Perhaps you believe in heaven or an afterlife, and that's great, but I'm talking about here and now, salvation in the way we create the world we want to live in together. And since it is not individual, since it is not a question of, well, I've been saved, so, it's not libertarian. I've got mine, I don't care about you. Since we depend on each other, we must be together to do the work. Now, a lot of what I'm talking about today is based on some of the work by Lillian Daniel. Reverend Lillian Daniel is a United Church of Christ minister. She caused a huge stir in 2011 when she published something on, the first one was in the Huffington Post, and then she expanded on it a little in an article in the Christian Century, in which she was, some people refer to her as snarky. Would you say it was snarky? Yeah, some people say it came across as a bit snarky. She's got an attitude, in which she talked about being tired of hearing people tell her, oh, I'm spiritual but not religious, every time she'd mention she was a minister to somebody. People would ask her, what do you do? She'd say she was a minister, and they'd say, oh, I'm spiritual but not religious. And she talked about, she said, anybody can find God, or the holy, in a sunset on the beach. The hard part is finding that in the midst of strife, right? And then she wrote a book, When Spiritual But Religious Is Not Enough. And more recently, in 2016, she has another book, I'm Tired of Apologizing for a Church That I'm Not a Member of. In which she's talking about, she's Christian, so she's talking about like Christians apologizing for those Christians, We're not like those Christians. One of the things that she says in the I'm Tired of Apologizing book is, what is remarkable is finding God in the context of flawed human community in a tradition bigger than you are, with people who may not reflect God back to you in your own image. Ooh. Ooh. So if we accept whatever, I know here in Unitarian Universalist congregations or in Unitarian Universalism, we have many different theological cores, yes? And many of us don't believe in God at all, but however we define the divine, can we accept that there is a spark of the divine within? Right? I end my sermons with namaste. The divine in me recognizes or honors the divine in you. So let me read this again. What is remarkable is finding God in the context of flawed human community in a tradition bigger than you are, with people who may not reflect God back to you in your own image. Oh. I don't have all the answers. Now let me tell you that the minister I am today is very different from the 20-something young woman who first started attending a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Beloveds, I was such a snob. I was an elitist. I wouldn't tell you I was. Of course, I think everybody is. Well, all animals are equal. Some animals are more equal than others. I gave to charity, but in that condescending kind of way that, well, I know better than those people, so here I'm going to help them. I'm sure they're just overjoyed at my personal help. It was being in a Unitarian Universalist congregation over years and years, and then going to seminary that helped rub some of those very spiky edges off. Some of you may say, but Pastor Madelyn, you get to be pretty spiky sometimes and pretty edgy. I know, better than I was. Help me to get out of that echo chamber. Help me to truly see people as equals in humanity. The spark of the divine in me is no greater than the spark of the divine in anyone else. In Oklahoma, Aunt Eller sings, "Now I don't say I'm better than anybody else, but I'll be danged if I ain't just as good," right? I did not get a bigger share of the divine than any of the rest of you or anyone else out there. So when people reflect the divine back at me, it is often not in my own image. I had to learn that. Now, Lillian Daniel also says the miracle is that we can find God in the company of other people as annoying as we are. Friends, have you ever been annoyed by anybody in worship or in the congregation? Don't name anyone. Have you ever annoyed anyone? I certainly have. We are both flawed and perfect at the same time, perfectly imperfect. We are flawed and we are images of the divine. And when we come together to worship together, we are forced to be together and recognize that this person with different tastes, with a different way of moving through the world, with different ideas on how we should do things, even though I know my way is the right one. This person is reflecting just as much divinity as I am. So we come together to learn that. We come together to be changed by one another. We do that best when we are able to welcome people in and we don't expect them to conform to the way we've always done things. So we don't look at the person who comes in on a Sunday morning in their best three-piece suit and say, "Oh, you don't have to dress up here." Maybe that person wants to dress up. Maybe Sunday morning is the only opportunity that person has to dress up. And we don't say in meetings, no, we can't run a meeting this way. We've always run it this way. Right? We learn from one another. So how are we changed? How have you been changed? This is your homework. How have you been changed by attending worship here? For those of you who are visiting for the first time, that's not a question you can answer yet. But maybe how have you been changed by being in a community where there are unexpected things that have happened to you? And when we're changed, we can then go out and do what? Change the world. Can we change the world? Tell me we can change the world. Tell me again, we can change the world. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. But only if we're working together. None of us can do this on our own. So we come together to be changed, to learn from one another, to teach one another, and to change the world. We also come to find comfort. Sometimes we really need that comfort Some of us today are in a bad space. How do I know that? Because there's a whole bunch of people here, and we're not a monolith. Some people are in a great space. But for those who are in difficult spots, we come together to be comforted, to be reminded that we are not alone. We are not alone in our struggle. We come to be challenged. Did you know you were coming to be challenged? Yeah, some of you knew that because I've mentioned it before. We come to be challenged, to do the work, to wrestle with things that maybe we haven't thought of in this way before. We come to support one another and to be supported. I know many of you have found support and comfort in this congregation. I know that because you have told me. We come to share the work. Oh yeah, and we come to do what? I couldn't hear that. Change the world. We come to change the world. We can only do that work together. As we heard from both the Tao faith and the Baha'i faith, we must teach one another and let them, after meditation on its needs, take counsel together and through anxious and full deliberation, administer to a diseased and sorely afflicted world the remedy it requires. We have it. We can do it. We can do it together. We are stronger together. And so here we are on Sunday mornings. Let us continue to do the work of building the beloved community. Beloveds, namaste. Oh, I'm sorry. I have it right here in my script, and I forgot to say it. I invite Will Farr to come up now. He's going to tell us why he supports, why he gives to our congregation.
Hi, I'm Will Farr. I'm going to tell you very quickly the story of how I came to, and my family came to join the congregation, and why we continue here. And if that resonates with you, then I hope you will think about your own level of support. So we're actually newcomers, I feel like, to Long Island, certainly relative to many of you. We came here in 2018, and we just moved from England, where we were immigrants, and seeking a community. And in England, we had a lovely community in our local Catholic parish. My wife was raised Catholic. And so coming here to Long Island and knowing no one, we thought, well, maybe we should seek a community in church. And so we looked at the Catholic churches here. It seemed a natural thing, but it didn't really suit. And so one day, Rachel, my wife, found this place. And I think she actually attended a few times before the whole family came. But then when the family came, almost immediately, we found a group of parents of young children. We have a 7-year-old daughter. She was 3 then. They were very welcoming. We made tentative friends. And over time, those friendships have grown, and we have very close and deep friends now in the congregation. And so we have merged into the community and feel more and more a part of it every day. And we keep coming back for our friends and for the community and for the group of people that we find here. And if that resonates with you, then I'd ask you to consider supporting the community so that it can grow and improve, just as we do. Thanks.
Thank you. Each Sunday, we share our plate offerings with an organization that does work in the world aligned with our principles. This is a spiritual practice. This month's Share the Plate organization is Sepa Mujer, and I need to, I have it in my script. I got it. Sepa Mujer is located in Brookhaven Town. Sepa Mujer addresses problems of gender inequality, sexual harassment in the workplace, domestic violence, and unfair immigration policies. They also have a legal assistance program to provide representation to immigrant victims of crime, most often sexual assault or domestic violence. They offer intensive leadership training for Latina women and have created a program for young women aged 14 through 20 called Girls Act. Through support, tutoring, and internships, it encourages girls to continue their education and improve their job skills. Please give generously to this worthy organization on this last Sunday of the month when it is our Share the Plate partner. You may make your gifts on the plate or online. For those online, the link to donate is in the chat box. The offering will now be gratefully received.
I invite you to join in the dedication of our offering. The words are in your order of service. To the work of our faith, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Amen. Thank you. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing our final hymn, number 1017 in the teal hymnal, Building a New Way, and then please do remain standing for the benediction and extinguishing of the chalice. Beloveds, go in peace, go in love, go together, and go always in the footsteps of the holy. Amen. And now it is time to extinguish our chalice flame. Our worship has ended, and our service begins.
Some come to dance, some come to play. There's a meeting here tonight. Some come to pass the time away. There's a meeting here tonight. Everybody, there's a meeting here tonight. Come along to the meeting here tonight. I know you by your friendly face. There's a meeting here tonight. Some come to talk, some come to sing. There's a meeting here tonight. Some come to make those rafters ring. There's a meeting here tonight. Everybody, there's a meeting here tonight. Come along to the meeting tonight. I know you by your daily walk. There's a meeting here tonight. Some people come from miles around for the meeting here tonight. They've come to make a joyful sound at the meeting here tonight. Everybody, there's a meeting here tonight. Come along to the meeting here tonight. I know you by your friendly face. There's a meeting here tonight. Camp meeting in the wilderness. There's a meeting here tonight. Unitarian Universalists, there's a meeting here tonight. Everybody, there's a meeting here tonight. Come along to the meeting here tonight. I know you by your daily walk. There's a meeting here tonight. Everybody, there's a meeting here tonight. Come along to the meeting here tonight. I know you by your daily walk. There's a meeting